it was literally my job to speak truth to power on violence against women, and I couldn't talk about what I was going through because it wasn't safe. And so I'm going to emphasize several times over that you don't know who is being affected by this. You really don't know. And so it's important for us to talk about it as much as possible.
Things that make you feel isolated from your other friends or family, or anyone, or like your systems of support is not a healthy behavior, because you deserve to have lots of people around you who care about you and know what's going on.
All of this pushback of it, especially that women, we shouldn't be able to express our sexuality. We shouldn't be able to sort of take sexy photos or take sexy videos or embrace our sexuality and celebrate our sexuality in a way that feels really good to us. That's just another form of victim blaming.
In my experience, there's a couple factors at play. One is just straight up entitlement. I know it sounds like a second wave 1970s feminist conversation to have, but absolutely entitlement. If you are a man who is raised to feel as though you're entitled to women's time, you're entitled to women's attention, you're entitled to get her answer whenever you want one, you're entitled, you're a 5 and you're entitled to date a 10, and if she's not a 10, you're entitled to tell her otherwise.
If you don't pause to think about all those problematic messages that you're receiving from popular culture and how they're not building up the foundations of healthy relationships, you come up with some pretty twisted ideas about what it means to be attracted to someone.
But technology is very tied into our current biases and what's going on in our society. So it plays into societal discrimination and oppression, where women are continually sexualized, in particular women of color. This idea that women are an object, they're only there for entertainment, it's no problem to take a woman's body.
To prevent, quote unquote, prevent rejection, a lot of times people might not accept information that says you're being rejected. And especially masculinity teaches many of us that if somebody says no, or not interested, or not quite into it, that your job is to keep going, is just to keep nagging or pushing or pressuring until the person gives in.
We need to have consent as this sort of, living, breathing, ever-evolving aspect of our sexual experiences. We need to be able to communicate about it before, we need to be able to communicate about it during, and we need to be able to communicate about it afterwards. A healthy sexual relationship needs to be mutual. And so what that means is that when we're having this shared experience of partnered sex, that everyone involved has an equal voice and everyone has an equal stake in crafting what that sexual experience is.
Whenever you're not sure about the signals that somebody is sending, instead of just assuming that everything is fine and we can keep going, take a minute to get clear with them. Like, honestly, please do not feel like everything needs to happen immediately. If they're into you, if they're truly into you, this isn't going to be your last chance to make something happen, right? So you're not in a burning building is what I'm trying to say. You have plenty of time. So just ask them.
But what behaviors are we encouraging based on how we conduct ourselves, either in our classrooms or in our schools? And so that sort of old adage that regardless of whether or not students are listening to us, they are always watching us.
There's no discussion of, pleasure at all. We'll talk about, preventing illness. We'll talk about preventing pregnancy. We'll talk about, STI symptoms. We'll even talk about other components of healthy relationships, but we will not talk about sexual pleasure.
It's super important that girls have spaces to think about and talk about what they do enjoy when it comes to sex and when it comes to relationships. What brings you pleasure? What makes you feel comfortable? What are your boundaries?
Check in and validate. There's this sort of idea that I didn't talk about what I was going through when I was going through it because I just didn't want to talk about it, which is hilarious because if you know me, I'm chatty. I'm a talker. I just felt like I was burdening people.
If your friend tells you that they think that they're in an abusive relationship, it's really important at first to just listen and be supportive and try not to judge.
And there's something that all of us can do. It could be educating yourself, increasing your own knowledge. It could be raising awareness and just having a discussion that this is happening. It's something we have to be aware of. You could push for training at your work, at your school place, to say we have to be able to respond to disclosures when this happens. We have to understand it. What I really want to say is this video itself is not enough. We have to take this information and move it forward.